yourself in the following situation. Mention psychological process involved in each situation. You are writing an essay for competition. You are chatting with a friend on an interesting topic. You are playing football. You are watching a soap area on TV. Your best friend has hurt you. You are appearing in an examination. You are expecting an important visitor. You are preparing a speech to deliver in your school. You are playing chess. You are trying to figure out the answer of a difficult mathematics problem. Discuss your answer with the teacher and classmates. Popular notions about the discipline of psychology. We mentioned about that every day almost every one of us acts like a psychologist. We try to understand why someone behaved in the manner in which as he did and come up with ready explanations. Not only this, most of us have developed our own theory of human behavior. If we want some to for, worker to perform better than he has in the past, we know that we will need to push him, maybe even use stick because people are basically lazy. Such popular theories of human behavior based on common sense may or may not be true if investigated scientifically. In fact, you will find that sensical explanation of human behavior are based on hindsight and explain very little. For example, if a friend you love goes away to a decent place, what will happen to your attraction for him? There are two sayings which you may recall to answer this question. One of them is out of sight, out of mind. The second one is distance makes the heart founder. Both of them make opposite statements. So which one is true? The explanation you choose will depend on what happens in your life after your friend leaves. Suppose you are able to find a new friend. The saying out of sight, out of mind will be used by you or others to explain your behavior. If you are unable to find a new friend, you will keep remembering your friend fondly. In this case, the saying distance makes the heart grow founder will explain your behavior. Notice that in both cases, the explanation follows the occurrence of behavior. Common sense is based on hindsight. Psychology as a science looks for patterns of behavior which can be predicted and not explained after the behavior occurs. Scientific knowledge generated by psychology often runs against common sense. One such explain One such example, a study concerned with children who gave up too easily when focused with a difficult problem or failure. She, she wondered how they could be helped. Common sense tells us to give them easy problems in order to increase their success rate so that their confidence goes up. Only later should we give them difficult problems which they will be able to solve because of their newfound evidence. Confidence dwells. Study tested this. She took two groups of students who were trained for trained for 25 days in solving math problem. The first group was given easy problems which they were they were always able to solve. The second group had a had a mix of easy and difficult problems. Obviously, in case of difficult problems, they failed. Whenever this happened, Dweck told them that their failure was because they had not tried hard enough and persuaded them not to give up and keep trying. After the training period was over, a new set of math problems were given to the two groups. What Dweck found goes against common belief. Those who had always succeeded because they were given easy problems gave up much faster when they faced failure than those who had experience of both success and failure and were taught to attribute failure to their lack of effort. Lack of effort. There are many. There are many other common sense notions which you may not found. There are many other common sense. There are many other common sense notions which you may not find to be true. Not too long ago, it was believed in some cultures that men are more intelligent than women, or women cause more accidents than men. Em- Empirical studies have shown that both of these are untrue. Common sense also tells us that one is not able to give one's best if you are asked to perform before large audience. Psychological studies have shown that if you have practiced well, you may actually perform better because the presence of the others helps you performance. It is helped that as you go through this textbook, you will discover that many of your beliefs and understanding of human behavior will change. You will also consider that psychologists are different from astrologers, tantrics, and palm readers because they systematically examine propositions based on data to develop principles about human behavior and other psychological phenomena. Activity 1.2. Ask a cross section of students about what they think. Psychology is a draw a comparison between what they say and what the textbook tells you. What conclusion can you draw? Ask across Ask a cross section of students about what they think. Physiology and psychology is draw a comparison between what they say and what the textbook text tells you. What conclusion can you draw? Psychology as modern discipline influenced to a large extent by Western developments has a short history. It grew out of ancient philosophy concerned with question of psychological significance. We mentioned earlier earlier that the formal beginning of modern psychology is traced back to 1879 when the first experimental laboratory was established in Leipzig, Germany by William Wundt. Wundt was interested in the study of consciousness, experience, and wanted to analyze the constituents of the building blocks of the mind. Psychologists during Wundt's time analyzed the structure of the mind through introspection and therefore were called structuralists. Introspection was a pro- procedure in which individual क्या कहते हैं इसको? याद नहीं आ रहा. Individual or subjects in psychological experiments were asked to describe in detail their own mental processes or experience. However, introspection as a method did not satisfy many other psychologists. It was considered less scientific because the introspection reports could not be verified by outside observers. This led to the development of new perspectives in psychology. An American An American psychologist, William James, who had set up a psychological laboratory in Cambridge, Massachusetts, soon after the setting up of Leipzig laboratory, developed what was called functionalist approach to the study of the human mind. William James believed that instead of focusing on the structure of the mind, psychology should instead study what the mind does and how behavior functions in making people deal with their environment. For example, functionalists focused on how behavior according to William James. Consciousness as an ongoing stream of mental process interacting with the environment formed the core of psychology, a very influential educational thinker of the time. John Dewey begins beings seek to function effectively by adapting to their environment. In the early 20th century, a new perspective called Gestalt psychology emerged in Germany as a reaction of the structuralism of Wundt. It focused on the organization of per- perceptual experiences. Instead of looking at the components of the mind, the Gestalt psychologists argued that when we look at the world, our perceptual experience is more than the sum of the components of the perception. In other word, in other words, what we experience is more than the inputs received from our environment. When, for example, light from a series of flashing bulbs falls on our retina, we actually experience movement of light. When we see a movie, we actually have a series of rapidly moving images of still pictures falling on our retina. Thus, our perceptual experience is more than the elements. Experience is holistic. It is a gestalt. We learn more about the Gestalt psychology when we discuss about the nature of perception in chapter 5. Yet another reaction, structuralism, came in the form of behaviorism around 1980, 1910, 1910, 1910. John Waston rejected the ideas of mind and psychology. He was greatly influenced by the work of psychologists like Ivan Polvan, Polbo on classical conditioning. For Waston, mind is not observable, and introspection is subjective because it cannot be verified by another observer. According to him, scientific psychologist scientific psychology must focus on what is observable and verifiable. He defined psychology as a study of behavior or response to stimuli which can measured and studied objectively. Behaviorism of Washington was further developed by many influential psychologists who are known as behaviorists. Most prominent among them was Skinner, who applied behave behaviorism behaviorism क्या कहते हैं इसे? To wide range of situations and popularized the approach. We will discuss Skinner's work later in this textbook. Although although behave behaviorists behaviorists dominated the field of psychology for several decades after Western. A number of uh, other approaches and views about psychology and its subject matter were developing around the same time. One person developing around the same time, one one person who shook the world with his radical view of human nature was Sigmund Freud. Freud viewed viewed human behavior as a dynamic manifestations of unconscious desires and conflicts. He founded psychoanalysis as a system to understand system to uh, view human behavior as a dynamic manifestation of unconscious desires and he founded psychoanalysis as a system to understand and cure psychological disorders. While Freudian psychoanalysis disorders, while Freudian psychoanalysis viewed human beings as motivated by unconscious desire for gratification of pleasure seeking and often sexual desire, the humanistic perspective in psychology took a more positive view of human nature. Humanities such as Rogers and Abraham Maslow emphasized the free will of human beings and their natural striving to grow and unfold their inner potential. They they argue that behav- behaviorism, with its emphasis on behavior as determined by environmental conditions, undermines human freedom and dignity and takes mechan- mechanis- क्या है mechanistic view of human nature. These different approaches fa- filled, filled the history of modern psychology and provide multiple perspectives to its development. Each of these perspectives has its own focus on draws our attention to the complexity of psychological processes. There are strengths as well as weaknesses in each approach. Some of these approaches have led to further talks. Some interesting landmarks in the evolution of modern psychology. Okay. 1879, William Wood established the first psychology laboratory in Leipzig, Germany. 1890, 1890. William James published Principles of Psychology in 1895. Functional functionalist functional functionalism is formulated as a system of psychology 1900. Sigmund Freud develops psychoanalysis. 94, Leon Polvo win the Nobel Prize for his work on digestive system that led to understanding of principles of development of response. In 1995, intelligence test developed by Bernadette Simon 1912, Gestalt psychology is born in Germany. 1916, first psychology department at Calcutta University is established. 1922, psychology is included in Indian Science Congress Act Association. 1924, Indian Psychological Association is founded. 1924, John B. John B. Watson publishes Behavior, Behaviorism, a, a, a book that led to the foundation of behaviorism. 1928, Anand Sengupta and Radha Kamal Mukherjee published the first textbook on social psychology, London, Allen and Union. 1949, Psychological Research Wing of the Defense Science Organizations of India is established. 1951, humanistic psychologist Carl Rogers published Client Centered Therapy. 1953, P.F. Skinner publishes Science and Human Behavior Strengthening Behaviorism as a measure 54 as a major approach to psychology. 1954, humanistic psychologist Ab- Abraham Maslow publishes Motivation Personality. 1954, Burn, Burn, Burnout of Psychology is established at Al, Ala, Allahabad. 1955, National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences NIM, NIMHA NIMHANS is established at Bangalore. 1962, Hospital for Mental Disease in Ranchi is established. 1973, Karnat Leons and Nico Tin, Tin, Tinbergen version, what is it? Win the Nobel Prize for their work on built-in spices specific animal behavior patterns that emerge without any prior prior experience learning. 1978, Herbert Simon wins the Nobel Prize for work on decision making. 1981, David Hobel and Torsten Wiesel win the Nobel Prize for their research on vision cells in the brain. 1981, Roger Sperry wins the Nobel Prize for split brain research. 1989, National Academy of Psychology and NAOP India was founded. 1997, National Brain Research Centre NBRC is established at Gurugram, Haryana. Daniel 2002, 2002, Daniel Kahneman wins the Nobel Prize Research on human judgment and decision. 25, Thomas Schelling wins the Nobel Prize. His work in applying game theory to understanding of conflict that cooperation in economic behavior. और लंबा जाएगा ये। अच्छा कहाँ से यहाँ तक पढ़ते हैं, फिर डेवलपमेंट साइकोलॉजी इन इंडिया कल पढ़ेंगे, ठीक है। तो ओके, developments developments in the discipline aspects of Gaslit approach and structuralism were combined and led to the development of the cognitive perspective, which focuses on how we know about the world. Cognition is the process of knowing. It involves thinking, understanding, uh, perceiving, memorizing, problem solving, and a host of other mental process by which our knowledge of the world develops, making us able to deal with the environment in specific ways. Some cognitive psychologists view the human mind as an information processing system like the computer. Mind, according to this view, is like a computer, and it receives, processes, transforms, stores, and retrieves information. Modern cognitive psychology views human beings as actively constructing their minds through their exploration into physical and the social world. This view is sometimes called constructivism. By Gates' view of uh, of uh, of child development, which we'll discuss later, is considered as construct constructivist theory of development of mind. Another recent psychologist, Vygotsky, went even further to suggest that the human mind develops through social and cultural process in which the mind viewed as culturally constructed through joint interaction between adults and children. In other words, while for Pigat children actively construct their own minds, Vygotsky took a view that mind is a joint cultural construction and emerges as a result of interaction between children and adults. So I am going. Thank you for